Hey there, YouTube. It's me, ya boy.
Who the f are you?
You may not know who I am, and that's okay. So to any newcomers here, or even current subscribers, my name is Akinoro, and in this video, I'm going to return to a novelization that made me still question what exactly I got by within my teen years. And I want the viewers to ride this trip with me, because it's very off the rails as it goes on. I'll be summarizing all the chapters of the story we're set to get into, so not to over-explain one side of this tale and leave a good amount for the rest. But in order for us to take such an approach, I do have to give a fair warning before we begin. For all the viewers at home, on the go, or with a loved one. I mean, hey, they might be into this stuff as well. The cave of minerals we're exploring includes some pretty mature subjects. It may not be too extreme in this video per se, but once we go to the next, and so on, our story definitely gets more explicit in nature. And while this video is censored for these reasons, I still must include them so you can get the full understanding of this media. It's all part of the kinds of things I just happened to read through. With all that said and done, we're making our trip to DeviantArt where we explore the work of artist tomboycomix. Pretty unique name on a pretty unique platform. It's a one-of-a-kind style for all sorts of interests, but the one that stuck with me so long ago was Minecraft and its fan art. That sounds silly, I know, but for a lot of people in 2014, this must have been pretty relatable. For you to understand my interests, this stuck a good place in my teenage Minecraft phase. All of my generation knows this feeling. Back when everything on the internet was plastered with this game's presence, we got an abundance of media that fans made with so much passion. Animations, music videos, all of this made Minecraft every kid's favorite game at some point. But of course, with the way I took to this liking, DeviantArt had many publishings that really got my interest at the time. And the ways that I browsed through Google looking for Minecraft comics to read through, it just so happened that I found many pages of a story belonging to tomboycomix. So naturally, I took to reading, and thus leads us to the story I came to grow on. Minecraft: The Awakening. The Awakening is a story about hardship and mystery, rather than Minecraft's own creativity and survival. It establishes a setting based on past and present alike. With my first time reading the comic being surprising in all ways, it did have things that make me come back to it regardless of minimal error or quality of the product. While it was just one of many readings I wrote on the internet, through webcomics of my favorite game franchises, it had its own characteristics that I'm just glad to be expressive about. So let's take a look at what I'm referring to, and see how much of an imprint it left on my reading of fan novels. The story begins with a big perspective. Imagine you constructing a Lego set. You must think your creation is pretty neat. Now if you compare that to constructing a person, that's something with a lot more moral compass. The end result of time and care that's put into creation is here below the eyes of two individuals. They ponder on the decisions they've made with this being of theirs. Steve. He's someone with personality. A strong personality, holding confidence amongst wit. Though flawed in some ways that even he knows, there's still lots of things he has to learn from. Like being a bit more prepared for the worst. Steve isn't perfect, neither was he made to be, but he holds many privileges that build him up as something more than imperfect, all the while letting out a swear or two in his nature, an imbalance to be sure. As he traverses the land, and finds some tight spots in the process, he finds himself happening upon a mine entrance. Entering it, Steve is greeted by warning signs in an odd chest containing a very broken music disc. Once he's alerted to a faint voice, he feels the need to leave, and what he doesn't expect on his way back home is running into danger at a very high cost. Down below him, someone's life is in danger. It's a woman, but Steve doesn't know that yet, so it seems. With not even a snail's pace, Steve disposes the creepers approaching her, and picks her up after she's tired out. Once in shelter and under the same roof as the girl, Steve wonders to himself who it really is he rescued. After a little bit of inspecting, Steve is only left confused with the thought, and as it lingers in his head come daytime, that's when he notices she's up and out of sight, with Steve's assortment of goods it appears. Hoping to mind away her troubles, she attempts to leave with all of his belongings, until suddenly he's right on her trail. Now with Steve furious and aiming for valuables.
Yeah, fuck!
As the two fight to keep the bag, and Steve unknowingly letting his hand fall in a spot unfamiliar to him, they're both interrupted by a creeper, who inadvertently explodes and makes the bag fall into lava. This knocks the girl out cold, and Steve wants to finish her off regardless. But the cave they're in is unexpectedly filled with mobs, to which Steve feels sympathetic about leaving her there to die. So he takes her home. Next, we're met with a flashback. The girl's past shows a time where she was all alone in the dark. Her parents are missing, and an odd figure comes to her side. She tells the person that her parents were fighting off griefers, and they understand fully. In that moment, in one way, she was safe. Cutting back to 2 days past, the girl wakes up to being tied and gagged. Steve sees her open eyes and decides to give the rundown of her current position under his household. He decides that she pay back all of his previous items by mining the same amount of minerals he had in the now destroyed bag, including double the diamonds. She's surprised by this punishment, as she assumed Steve will do something more grueling, but this is all he demands, still not knowing of the difference they have. As another day passes, he takes her to a new cave to start mining, and with everything they've conflicted on, she feels that they should be more concise with one another. The girl then introduces herself as Mindy, so our blue-plaid protagonist does the same. After he gives her a spot to start working, with food and water by his side, Steve takes the time to wait on her mining, only to find out she spent most of it digging room for a ladder. Accidentally getting himself stuck, Steve gets her to a position for Mindy to notice something quite odd about him, which makes her then realize he's known as a spawn. Suddenly, they both fall a great height, and Steve being upside down doesn't do so good. Yep, he dies. Then with a pretty small visual dream, Steve respawns at home and realizes he died in the cave. He now travels back to meet with Mindy again, who just barely survived the fall and decided to wait for him. With Steve being the only one holding the food, she's become very unable to move, and with this, doesn't stay up and about much longer. So, mining is done for the day. Once she awakes back inside safekeeping, Steve is ready to ask her many questions, like how she knew he was a so-called spawn. She tells him the individuals known as spawns don't have belly buttons. They were made by the creator Notch, which gives them many unimaginable traits, like immortality and resistance to cold weather, along with more physical strength than her kind, the ones known as Borns. Steve decides to leave with all this information given to him. Mindy is left confused, wondering what he wants out of it. All the while, the creator Notch is busy outside of the overworld with his own matters at hand. End of chapter 1. So, I gotta say, revisiting the first chapter was definitely something I was intrigued about. It's been a long time last read from this series, and it definitely retains some good storytelling. The writing is well delivered, while including many errors, and doesn't stray away from a proper plot being developed. And when eyeing the design of backgrounds and our characters that appear as the forefront, it's not a bad decision in terms of what can be done for a Minecraft comic, let alone one that includes such a high amount of scope and visibility. It's a neat touch to include environments from the game with houses and caves that are designed specifically with the comic scenes in mind. I'ma be honest, Tomboy was real smart with that move, saving time on a lot of work that most artists would despise with backgrounds. Now for this video, I wouldn't necessarily feel like rating these chapters to review them, but for the plot that comes ahead, I'm just gonna say that it gets heavier on the violence, so I decided to save the story a ways down for another video. If our next part is any interest to you, do be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any fresh, fan-made Minecraft content. Also like the video if you enjoyed, that would easily boost the appeal and presence of my channel, and it only takes one tap. With all that said, until next time, this is Akanoro, and I'll see you guys.